So if you listened our Friday episode on Siasa za Africa, one of the things that we touched on was what's going on in Tunisia, and that's what we're going to be speaking again today. But now we're going to go more in detail. Thomas, thank you. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you for inviting me.
So a short history for our listeners. In 1968, the Ghanaian Prime Minister, Kofi Busia, blamed foreigners rather than the national bourgeoisies for the economic downfall. The same thing happened in 1982 with the Nigerian president, Shehu Shagari, expelling non-nationals by criminalizing their activities. And in 1989, we saw the same pattern with President Abou Diouf of Senegal, who signed a decree to expel approximately 170,000 Mauritanians. And then last week, President Kais of Tunisia blamed Black Africans for the increased criminal activities and repatriated them back to their countries. Thomas, is this a strategy that African leaders have been using to cover for the economic meltdown and find a scapegoat? Because clearly it seems like it's working because they have been using it over and over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. This is nothing new on the African continent and all around the world. It's happening. It's always happened where nationalism is rooted. You need to remember that back in the days, people used to move around without really much border implementation. So those nations that we use today, those borders, were not the borders of our people used to use this continent, the trade routes, the different places. So they always have been blacks in North Africa. They always have been North Africans in West Africa. There's been like those mixing and melting pot for forever. But when the national state council came in and the post-colonial state start to fail its people, they start to blame foreigners in order to say, hey, this is not me failing my mission. This is not me lying to you. This is actually them. They are responsible for the bad or the poor implementation of my policies and my politics. So let's kick out the foreigners, and then things will get better for you. That's stuff in the narrative. However, in Tunisia, there's something slightly new. What is new here is that President Kais used the theory of replacement. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that theory? He's basically saying, and this is a theory that came out of terrible social science, that says that African demographic being so much bigger than European demographics, over time Africans will replace Europeans, right? So this is a fascist theory to justify kicking out foreigners in Europe, right? And so people are playing with that fear of what they call a massive replacement of populations. For the very first time, we heard that argument in Tunisia, and the President Kais did use that argument and said, no, the black presence in the country will replace the Arabic presence. It's not exactly quote, but it's literally really close to it. So he had this big comment racist, and he bases his theories on something that is available online that you can find in a lot of website, which is to say, yes, there is a replacement, but on truth and in fact, there is no such things. There's no such things. What we observe, it's absolutely different. And I think that's what we should unbank in that video. We should look at what is it that is actually happening in Tunisia. Because it is not at all what the president says it's happening.
So, Thomas, is President Kais failing Tunisians?
Definitely, but is fooling Tunisian first. But more than that, what's happening in Tunisia need to be understood in a 10-year period, right? So 10 years ago, 11 years ago, actually now, was the Tunisian revolution. I don't know if you have heard about it, but it started what was called the Arab Spring. So if today you don't have Gaddafi in Libya, it's because of the Tunisians. If today you still have a civil war in Syria, it's because of the Tunisians. If you have reform in Morocco that the king made also in the 2010, it's because of Tunisians. So Tunisians have made revolutions that were highly publicized. The whole world spoke about it. It became like something of a what people have called after that Arab Spring. It became a lot of hope, saying that the Arabic countries are moving to democracy. They're asking for democracy. They were under a lot of authoritarian regime, under a lot of dictature, and they were asking for more democracy, because the dictator was failing them, right? And like they often do. And so what happened is The revolution happened. They gained power. Ben Ali was kicked out, sent to Arabia Saudi. The guy was in power since I don't have the exact age, but at least 30 years, somewhere there. And so Tunisian decided to move to another chapters of their history, right? So the revolution took place. The consistency that they started an assembly in charge of making a constitution, and this constitution was absolutely modern. A lot of right was gained by the people, a lot of advantage was gained by the people, and it opened an era where Tunisia become some sort of the lens of a new form of democracy for the world, for the African continent, from the Middle East, but also for the rest of the world. So we had this big image of Tunisia moving forward towards more equality between women and men, more justice, equality, a better justice system. It didn't work, unfortunately. The counter-revolution forces reorganized and wanted to reintroduce military rules. They wanted to reintroduce police brutality. They wanted to reintroduce gender imbalance between men and women. They wanted to get back the control of the countries that they have lost. That's national bourgeoisie that Fanon speak about, that want to size all the assets of a country, but without being able to develop them or being really interested of developing them. So from the phase of the revolution, we moved to a phase of counter-revolution. And this is when Kais came in and he says, I'm the big man. You guys are all about discussing, debating. I'm the big man. I put things in charge, right? I put things in order, and order will come back in the country. And that was something that a lot of people were asking for, because I don't know if you have studied a lot of revolutionary moments, but it's always really unsettled. You know, like some people are killed, other people like are not so relevant at the beginning, become relevant. There's a lot of things happening in a revolution, and people were tired of that instability of governance, right? So they saw Kais as the solution, the big man that is going to put everything in order. And what we have seen is that he has completely wrote off all the rights that the Tunisia acquired during the revolutions. He put them out of the constitution. The new constitution he has a lot of power and he has a lot of control over the country, similar as what Ben Ali used to have, the dictator before. So Tunisian right now and Black Africans are both the victim of a regime that is trying to establish himself against the right of the people. And right now, his scapegoat is the foreigners, but tomorrow it's going to be the Tunisian left, homosexual Tunisians, LGBTQ right plus Tunisians. Even you and I making videos and podcasts might not be able to go to Tunisia. You never know. You never know. So this is the beginning. They attack the foreigners first. They learn the tricks. They see how they can beat people, how the police can organize. And after that, they attack other category of the population that raise against their power.
So speaking about you trying to analyze what might be happening in Tunisia in a few years, that is also one of the things you did with your article, South Africa's Post-Colonial Winter is Coming. And for our audience who haven't read the article, it's available in Africa is a Country website, africaisaCountry.com. So they can definitely go ahead and check it out. But I think it scares the hell out of me when you try and predict what is going to be happening in Tunisia in the next few years. How are the Tunisians feeling about it right now? Because in a way, it also reminds us of what Frantz Fanon wrote, right? Black Skin, White Masks, an amazing book. If you haven't read that book and you're listening to this, please go find that book and read it out. It's going to help you see things in a different light. Should the Tunisians be worried?
Oh, yeah. Tunisians are worried. I can tell you Tunisians are worried. They're definitely worried, and if they're not, they should be worried, because what's happening to foreigners right now will happen to them tomorrow. This is not me trying to be a guru and trying to predict the future on a glass. This has happened, as I explained, when Nigerians president beat out the foreigners, literally kicked 2 million Ghanaian people, 2 million Ghanaian people being kicked out by the president of Nigeria. What's happened after? In the months that follows, there were an election. He lost the elections. There were contestation around him. They beat the fuck out of them. Let me be clear. They beat the fuck out of the protesters, and the guys stay in power. So the next one that are going to live in that fear in that insecurity that now President Kais is organizing towards Black Africans, the Tunisians are going to be the next one. I think it's important by now we also speak of what's really happening, because a lot of Ivorians, Senegalese, Malians are currently waiting at the airport, waiting in embassies. Planes are being organized to repatriate them from Tunis to Abidjan, from Tunis to Lomé, from Tunis to Senegal. And as much as we speak of politicians that are organizing and that making that mess, we should also remember that there is people that have a life there that were established in those countries. Students like you. You currently recording in Rwanda. I don't know if this is an open secret, but imagine if tomorrow Rwandans decide to kick out like all foreign students. That's literally what's happening right now. A lot of legal documented students that went in Tunisia to learn and follow up and develop their countries and develop the relationship between Tunisia and their countries are now leaving the countries in fear of being, I don't even have the word, and in fear of being beaten in the street, in fear of being attacked, because the president is giving a green light to anyone that want to abuse like people's power.
And we have been referring to Black Tunisians, and I think we should make it clear by now. We are saying Black Tunisians because even the individuals who have been born in Tunisia, they're nationals of Tunisia, they're also scared of going outside right now.
There is definitely Black Tunisians, as much as there is a range of segment of society in Tunisia. Tunisia is a cosmopolitan society. So you have people from Libya, you have people from Morocco, you have people from Middle East. So there is Black Tunisians, there is lighter skinned Tunisians, there is people of the island of Tunisia. There's an island called Djerba. So you see, like there's a whole diversity of people, but President Kais don't like all of them. He don't want all of them. He don't want to rule with all of them. So he's really scared of some of them. And right now, yes, as you say, the Black Tunisians must feel like really rejected in their own countries, and this is absolutely unacceptable. As soon as you understand the history of those countries, if you understand the history of Carthage, if you understand how those empires have developed towards trade with the source of the Sahara, you understand the history of those two parts of the continent are interlinked forever, and there will forever be. And the Tunisians that are born Black come out of that history of interaction within the Sahara. The Sahara is like an ocean, Renatus. In an ocean, it's quite easy to go from one harbor to the other one when you know the road, right? Nothing really happened in the middle. You just need to focus. So in the Sahara, it's the same. You can cross the Sahara for days and days and see nothing, and suddenly you arrive in another type of climate, and you might be north of Burkina Faso. You might be in Mali. So there is a continuity, and there have always been caravan between the different empires of North Africa with those of Southern Africa. There were always collaborations, and what President Kais wants right now is the end of that collaboration and the end of a certain idea of a cosmopolitanism for the Tunisian society.
This is something that has gained international attention. And what is President Kais saying right now?
So let me also maybe like put it in perspective, so our listeners understand this is not just an African story. This is a world story. Right now, same process are happening within India, right? So in India, you have a president that discriminates against Muslim within his own country. So it's not exactly the same thing because it's religion, it's not race, but it is this type of politics, right? Why is it happening in India? Why is it happening also in Brazil with Bolsonaro pushing the white segment of the Brazilian society in front of the black segments and making sure that every gain that was owned by Afro-Brazilians towards the presidency of Lula have been destroyed, right? So everywhere it's happening that there's that movement, and we can ask ourselves why. Like it's happening. Africa is one scene of that global stage, you know. Not better, not worse, not less impacted, not more impacted. Just a part of this global dynamics. And what is that dynamics? Is the failure of an economical theory that is called neoliberalism. So neoliberalism as an economy is failing, and he has taken control over a lot of countries, and a lot of countries are now call themselves neoliberal. What it means is that the market is ruling, but that's what they say it means. What it means for real, it means the rich are getting richer, This is absolutely detailed. It's not just me talking about it. You can look at the work of Thomas Piketty. The 1% of the richest are getting richer and richer. Whatever there is COVID crisis, whatever there is financial crisis, whatever there's inflation crisis, they get richer and richer. And the poor get poorer and poorer, right? So neoliberalism create like a society that is societies that are highly divided, where people are impoverishing, so they get crazy, they get mad about it, and in the same time, a small elite is getting richer and richer and richer, and this is all legal. That's the beauty of it. It's a massive robbery, if you ask me, but if you ask lawyers, it is all legal. They do legal work. They send money from this continent to this continent. It's absolutely fantastic. The failure of neoliberalism explain why are politicians in need for disciplinary solutions. They need to discipline their own societies right now, because what's happening is intention. It's a tension. And every society is going through that. In South Africa is the same. The poor are getting poorer. The poorer of South Africans are poorer than at the time of, there were more jobs at the time of apartheid in certain sector of the economy that there is now. Why? Because neoliberalism have destroyed those jobs to replace them by machine, right? And so in that process, he weakened the working class. He weakened like the workers. What it means is that they are impoverishing and others are enriching themselves, right? I don't know if it's quite clear, but I think it's quite important we understand like what's happening all around the world is the same dynamics that can be observed in different continents. In France last year, you have marches called 2 years ago, Gilets jaunes, that were also asking for better life and complaining about inflation. So society right now is being pulled apart by neoliberalism, which is a theory. That's not something that is a practice. It's a theory. That's something guys think out of their mind and think if the market rules, it's going to be better. And it does impact, unfortunately, African societies too that have to fight back. And that's where foreigners become scapegoats. That's where like they become, because the power want to stay in power and cannot change the rule of the game. He cannot say, no, now we nationalize our resources. Now we're using our workforce towards our national project. They cannot do that. Few political powers can now get out of neoliberal era. Because the IMF, because the World Bank, it's complicated to explain why, but something we need to consider. All of those tensions come out of one problem.
In as much as this news is gaining international momentum, on February 25th, the African Union criticized the Tunisian president, right? And right now, what should we be expecting to see in the next few days? In as much as it's gaining international it's gaining international attention. And should we be seeing Tunisians fighting right now? Should we be seeing them protesting against what the president has said? And should we be seeing more of the African Union getting more involved with what is happening?
Well, two answers to this. The first one is, if I boycott you, am I gonna be in your podcast? No. If you boycott me or I boycott you, there's no podcast, right? So African Union right now, I've said like they blah 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 blah, but really nothing concrete so far, right? So we don't know if what African Union have said will have an impact. And we calling for a better impact, right? Think about it, Renatus. You are financing currently the Tunisian government receive a lot of foreign fund, right? Help for development, they call it, investment. There's a lot of money coming in Tunisia. So if there were a problem with what they say, they would stop trade with Tunisia. They would stop sending development help for Tunisia. Why is it not happening? Why every country continue to help Tunisia, and especially northern countries that contribute a lot to the budget of Tunisia? It is because they don't want Black Africans themselves. There's a lot of illegal migrants, Black African illegal migrants in North Africa don't wish to be in North Africa. If you ask a migrant from Ivory Coast, Senegal, they don't tell you like, no, I want to live in Casablanca in Tunis because the Mediterranean is nice. No, they want to reach Europe, right? So what's happening currently, which is highly important, is that Europe have changed its immigration policies. So when people could seek asylum, for instance, in Paris and London before, and go to to a particular office for refugee and seek like refugee status. Now they have to do that, neither in Paris or London like before, but from Tunisia, from Morocco, from Algeria, and from Libya. Very important, Libya, because Libya is in a big stage of conflict. And you ask yourself, what is European playing here? They're playing that policy. They want African migrants to stay in Africa. That is clear. So what they do is they give a lot of money to regime like Kais, and they tell him, control your ocean, control what is control your land, control those migrants, right? Make sure that they apply, and when they fail, we're gonna send them home. We are going to organize plan as Europeans, the OPRAs or the refugee committee will organize. So we take them out for you, but you have to develop a military solution to make sure no small boats are leaving the coastal of Tunisia to reach to Europe. So in this big game, if we hear only European Union speaking and really few like Germany or France or UK haven't really said anything about Kais, it's not because they believe what he says, it's because they know they co-created the situation. They co-created the situation. So as much as Kais is using a political card to try to impoverish the revolution, to try to fight back the revolution, he is also constrained by Europe. He receives money for Europe to make sure he controls his coastals, he controls his oceans, and no one can pass to Europe. So where does those people go? What do? They stay in cities. They stay in Tunis, they stay in Alger, they stay in Casablanca, they stay in Tangier. African migrants have to stay there, and they organize themselves while waiting to reach Europe, right? But what do you think Tunisians think of that? As Tunisian being asked, do you want 10,000 refugees in your city because I'm opening an office? And now that's where they have to seek for their papers. And in exchange of that, do I create jobs? No, I don't create jobs. I pay military guys so they control the coastals. I pay the president. So obviously it created some tension. We're not here to say Tunisians are bad and Black Africans are better or no, that's not what we're saying here. What we're saying here is that there is a migratory situations that take people out of West Africa where they have to cross all West Africa, North Africa, and reach Europe, right? This is an old migration road that have happened towards century. The fascists of today think they can stop it. No one can stop it. You can forget about that. That's a dream of humans, same dream as flying for humans, you know? Anyway, you do not control those forces, and right now Europe is putting the pressure down to North Africa. So North Africans are in a situations where there is more and more illegal immigrants within their countries, which might not be the best way to feel safe. It might not be the best way to feel the country is going.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that European countries are indirectly supporting President Kais with what has been going on right now.
Correct. And not just Kais, Erdogan of Turkey currently have millions of refugees in Turkey, not Africans, but from Syria and Lebanon, but mainly from Syrian refugee that stay in Turkey, and he receives billions of dollars by European Union every year to make sure they don't pass. Because European powers don't want those migrants at home, because at home, they deal with people like me. There's a civil society organization. There's people that say, oh, whoa, calm down. Okay, you don't like the Syrian, you don't like the Ivoirians, but here everyone eats. Here everyone can get a chance to get a job. Here we need to treat those people decently, right? And they don't want that. Because when we're on their case, they kind of have to do it. Democracy works with those sort of pressure, right? So by putting them in Turkey, by putting them in Tunisia, by pushing them back to Morocco, where they have to apply for the right, international right. Those are UN convention things. It is not like Kais that invented the political refugee right, for instance. If there is a conflict, there is migratory rights to leave, to go to a safe zone for yourself. So anyway, they are pushing the barrier to North Africa, and Africa is right now doing the work of Europeans and create drama for their own societies. Because yes, I don't think it's a problem to say that a lot of migrants coming to a city will develop some fear in the populations. I don't think it's bad to say that. I think it's part of what's happening here. Europe is behind it as well.
What is the solution, Thomas?
Pan-Africanism. Honestly, like at this point, like, do we still need those stupid borders? I'm here telling you there is 10,000 I don't know, West African that can enter Tunisia in a month or in 2 months or in 3 months. What are we gonna do? Are we going to pretend we can stop them if we build a wall all around? Are we going to pretend? No, we can't. We need to sort those things together. We need to speak to each other. We need to organize things together. We can understand the Tunisian's perspective. We can understand the Senegalese or Ivoirian perspective. If you're a student, a legal student in Tunisia right now, and you're Black, you should not be in fear of living there. You're legal, you have rights, you know? So we need to collectively abolish those border system and unleash the forces. Let the Ivoirians that want to work in Tunisia work in Tunisia. Let the Tunisians that want to work in South Africa work in South Africa. Let the Tanzanians go and make amazing podcasts in Rwanda. Let develop those forces.
For our audience who are listening to this right now, I just want to let them know that we will soon be doing a podcast, and absolutely one of the things we're going to be covering will be Pan-Africanism. So they just have to stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed our content, kindly hit the subscribe button and stay tuned because you're coming back with more news. Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks so much.